Thanks, Jeff. All right. Hey, I'm Beth Massey. I'm a product manager on the .NET MAUI team, and I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Elan, and I'm an engineer on the .NET MAUI team.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to you about building hybrid apps with .NET MAUI today. All right, so let's talk a little bit like, what are hybrid apps and why would we build them at all? So hybrid apps are really a blend of native and web technology. They're typically built like the UI is built with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and that is wrapped in a lightweight native app container. This gives you access to the native platform features and device-specific hardware that you might want to access on these devices, and it can be mobile or desktop devices. This typically a lot of people want to just reach via the App Store distribution models for the phones. But what's kind of cool about using web tech on the UI is you can easily reuse the UI across these device platforms and web browsers too. Some examples out there today that you probably have heard of are Electron for desktop apps and Ionic for mobile apps. All right, so for .NET, on the .NET stack, you have choices, okay? Depending on whether or not you want to have maximum reach of your web apps, or you want to build native apps with the deepest, richest experiences. So on the .NET platform, we have Blazor for building web applications quickly, really slick, really fast, all with C#. On the other side of the house, with the deepest native experiences, we have .NET MAUI. And .NET MAUI allows you to build Windows, Android, iOS, and Mac apps all with a single code base. But you know what? You can kind of blend the two together, and that's what we call hybrid apps. You can use Blazor for the UI and MAUI for the platform abstraction layer, and it allows you to kind of mix and match the best of both worlds. Today, we're going to show you how to build a hybrid app, as well as how to structure your solution so that you can take advantage of building the UI across the web and your native apps. All right, so here's kind of Blazor hybrid at its core, right? Blazor is on top of MAUI in this case, right? The Blazor UI is fully native, and it's rendered through a platform web view. So for instance, on Windows, that would be WebView 2. MAUI provides the platform abstractions for you in the single project. No internet is required here, by the way. Just because you're using web technology in the UI does not mean that it's using the internet. This is not a browser. This is actually, all of your UI is packaged up and built with the app itself. So this allows you easy store distribution and reach as well. All right, so how would we structure the app so that we can reuse the UI across our native and web clients? So we use a Razor class library in this case, and we add the reference, that Razor class library, to our native and web apps, in case Blazor and MAUI. This Razor class library has all our shared UI, but it also has interfaces defined so that anything the UI is calling, any services that it's calling, has an interface so that the implementations are then inside of the web or the native app itself. And we're going to show you some cool examples on how to do that. All right, so for our first demo, I'll hand it to Elan, who's going to kind of walk us through and give us a tour of this thing.
All right, here we are on my computer. Thank you, Beth. And let's take a look at what Beth said, and let's take a look at what that looks like inside of Visual Studio. I have Visual Studio 2022, version 17.8. That was released this week alongside .NET 8 and .NET MAUI 8. First thing we'll do is create a new project, and I'm going to use the .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid app template. Now, we've had this template since the very beginning of .NET MAUI. I'll call this my demo MAUI app and use .NET 8, but we've made some updates to the template to bring out all the latest of what .NET MAUI offers and also all the latest of what Blazor offers, because not only is .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid a hybrid application, the template is itself a hybrid. It mixes all of the bits of .NET MAUI with what Blazor offers. Now, whenever I look at a project template, the first thing I want to do after I create it is look at what's inside the project file, because that'll kind of tell me what's going on here. What are the references? What is going on? So if I double click on that, right at the top we see the very first bit of Blazor making itself kind of shown, which is using the Razor SDK. That's what enables us to use the Razor syntax inside .razor files and have those be compiled into the application. And just a little bit further down, we see some of the parts of MAUI showing themselves, which is all the different target frameworks that we support. So this application supports Android, iOS, Mac Catalyst, and if we scroll over just a little bit, we see here the Windows target framework is available as well, and you can even optionally add support for Samsung's Tizen platform, for example. Now, moving along, let's take a look at what are some of the different files that we have in this project template. Starting from the top, we have the www root folder. And inside there, we have static files that are shipped with the app. As Beth mentioned, there's no internet required for this. This is, you can build a completely offline application. Now, of course, if your app needs to make a web request, of course, you might need internet for that. But the application itself, it's not a web server with a website loading some remote content. This is all built into the application. And that's why these files are here inside the project. Next, we have the components folder, which we've updated to match what's in the Blazor web templates that we'll also look at today. And then we have various Razor files that are building out our UI and parts of the application logic. So we have our layout and menu. We have some pages that we can navigate to, like the counter, the home, and weather. And then next we have the platforms folder. This is part of MAUI, showing where you can put your platform-specific settings, permissions, service implementations that might need to be implemented differently on different platforms. And then resources, which we don't use much in Blazor applications, but you might have other resources such as images, splash screens, things like that. And then we have some of the things that glue it all together. In particular, we have this main page.xaml. Now, this is the native UI of the application, which really consists of just one part, which is the Blazor web view control. What it's saying is take that index.html file in our www root folder, and inside it host our main Razor component, which is called routes. That's the Blazor router that says, well, given this URL, or kind of fake URL, what page should be loaded for that. And then last, we'll just take a quick look at MAUI program.cs. If you've seen program.cs in other application types, this looks very familiar. It's directly inspired and builds on what other platforms do. We have our services, we register everything that we need. You might have platform-specific services, and so forth. So let's give that a run just to see what we're looking at. Now, if you've ever built any Blazor application before, this will look completely familiar to you because it's the same content of the same template. In fact, to build this, one of the things I worked on was the .NET MAUI Blazor hybrid template. And what I did is I went to the Blazor team and I said, can I take all your files and put them in my template? Actually, I didn't tell them that. I just did it without, yeah, I just did it without asking them. And then I said, is it okay? And they said, yes, of course it's okay. So it was all good. So this looks like any Blazor template you might have seen. It's got the counter, it's got the weather. The difference is that this is an exe file. This is running locally, natively on my machine. There's no web server, no internet, nothing of the sort. Same would work on Android, iOS, all the different platforms. Now, that's my .NET MAUI application. I'm going to add another project here, which is my ASP.NET Blazor web application. So this is the updated template. I'm just going to go with all the defaults for everything. Called my demo Blazor app. .NET 8. Mine still says preview. If you install today, it won't say preview. I didn't want to anger the demo gods and update things the day before a demo.
Released yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, so that's not something you do. But aside from it saying preview, everything else should look just about the same. And here we see things really do look the same. You can see exactly where I copied all the content from. Here in this components folder, there's a layout with a layout in the menu. There's all the different pages. There's the routes file. Looks very, very similar. And if I run that, we should see that again. Not sure what I ran. I ran something. I didn't see when I clicked on it.
I think you got it.
Looks like I ran the right thing. All right, there we go. And there we have the same type of thing. Now, the problem is I've duplicated everything. I have the same weather, the same counter, the same home, the same routes, the same everything. Let's start sharing things. Beth showed in the slides that one of the techniques that we can use to share things is with a Razor class library project. So let's add one of those to the solution. So we'll call this my shared Razor class library, also using .NET 8. And inside this class library project, you can put any functionality that you want. You can have whatever classes and utilities and services that you want, or maybe some interfaces. And you can also have Razor files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my weather pages. Let's take this one. I'm going to cut and paste it into my shared one. And then I'll go to my Blazor web application and delete the weather from that, because I want to start sharing this weather component. I don't want to have two different copies of it. Maybe they get out of sync, and maybe one has a bug, one looks a little bit differently. And in each project in my Blazor web application, I add a reference to this shared library. And this is just like you might do with any class library project. And then I go to my MAUI web application and add a reference to that same shared library. And to make sure I've done things correctly, one thing I want to do is go to my shared weather component and say shared. That way we kind of know that it's the one that I'm not cheating everybody with it. And then I have to tell Blazor that our files are located not just in this main not just in the main assembly, but also in this additional shared class library that we have. So inside this routes razor, there's this app assembly property here that says most of my files are located inside MAUI program, but I also have an additional, some additional assemblies. So this is an array of assemblies containing additional razor components that we want to navigate to in the router. So here I want to say, whatever assembly contains my weather component, go to its assembly and get all the types from there. That's my MAUI application. We're going to make the same exact change in the ASP.NET web application. Make sure we add the using statement for that. In the ASP.NET application, there's one additional step we have to do, which is here at the bottom of program.cs, we have to also specify the additional assembly. This is something we want to improve in the future, but right now it's just this extra step. You just have to do it one time, so not a big deal. And all right, so now let's actually zazz up that weather page a little bit, because all we really did is say that it's shared. Zazz, that's a word. Okay. I think it might be a Scrabble word, but you have to use two blanks and the Z. Long story. Right, okay. Here inside the Razor class library, we also have a www root folder. I'm going to add some existing content. Earlier, I used the Bing image generator with DALL-E to create an image of some weather. And let's change the HTML here. So say image source. And this is my Bing storm image. So it's a stormy skyline. And in a Razor class library, the shared assets in the www root folder have a pattern that they follow. They're always underscore content and then the name of the class library. So don't forget that or your content is not going to load. So here we have underscore content and then the library name and then the name of the file. So let's run the web application for that. And we should see that updated weather page loading up. So here is that weather with it doesn't look great, but we'll see if we can improve that. Let's load the .NET MAUI application. It should look the same, which is to say maybe not great because my HTML skills they're not the greatest, but that's okay. And once we have that running.
But that's the point. You want them to look the same right now.
Yes, I do want them to look the same, whether they're great or not. So it looks not great, but there it is.
Same exact component.
Now, what I can do is I can start improving it. So now that I have it running, I can, and I know some of you CSS folks out there say, that's not how to do it. I know, but I don't really want to learn CSS. So I'm just going to use hot reload and just keep tweaking my HTML until eventually it looks right. Now we've updated it with hot reload. We have a shared component between an ASP.NET web app and a cross-platform native .NET MAUI application. So now let's go to Beth, who's going to show us how to apply that same technique to a real application. So let's see Beth's demo.
Thanks, Alon. Yeah, so I just have a pre-built app here that has a little bit more meat to it because it took me a little longer than 5 minutes to build. This is structured almost exactly the same. I have the Razor class library. Hold on. What's going on here? Sorry about that.
You're logging out.
I don't know. Okay, the Razor class library happens to be named root in this case. Okay, so it's just, this is the Razor class library. It has all of the shared UI like Alon was demonstrating. I have my MAUI app here, and then I also have a Blazor app that I've also selected to add the WebAssembly as well. So it's got the server and the client WebAssembly projects here. So that's the new web app template in .NET 8. All right, so let me just show, I've got the web app running here just to kind of give you a tour of what this app does. It's pretty simple, it's basic, but it's a countdown timer, okay? You can configure it. You can select an animation, select the countdown to, specify that. It uses local storage to store it all. The internet's not really required, although this is the web app. All right, you can see that this is running from the web server on, my box here, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up the DevTools here. And I'm going to just clear the site data because I kind of want to show you what happened when I actually opened the app the very first time. So let's pretend like I'm going to reload load the app for the first time, take a look at the network. I've got it filtered on WASM. You'll see that it's downloading in the background the WebAssembly version of this app. Okay, that's using the new interactive auto rendering mode inside of Blazor and .NET 8. So you probably have already seen Dan talk a lot about this one, but just wanted to give you an example of that. If I load it again, you'll see that it actually is going to recognize that I already have the WebAssembly version, and now it's running that version of that app. So, okay. All right, so this is the web version of the app. But what I really want to talk to you is about the hybrid part, okay? So you'll notice there that a couple of things we're doing. Notice that I have an interface here defined for local storage as well as the form factor that you saw. This is where we're getting the form factor and displaying it on the page like you saw. These interfaces are defined right here in our Razor class library because we're using them inside of the UI. But the implementations of these things are different in the Blazor app versus the MAUI app. For instance, you have to inject the implementations themselves. Okay, so if I go to my MAUI app here, just like Alon showed you, the startup program, basically, this is where we're then injecting the device-specific services in this case, and the implementation of those services are right here in the apps themselves. All right, so for instance, in the form factor, you'll see that I'm using in the MAUI side, this abstraction called device info. This is great. I mean, this is why we use MAUI, because it provides this abstraction layer over all of the different devices that we're targeting. In this case, deviceinfo.idiom. So basically, what is the form factor? Is it desktop? Is it a phone? And then platform. What kind of platform is it running on? So that's pretty cool. Similarly, in local storage, for instance, MAUI provides us this really slick way of just accessing the local storage of the device through the preferences API. So I'm just getting and setting the settings of the timer information. Cool. All right. So what if we want to do like some specific, device, depending on like what type of device it is, right? So we want to target a specific set of UI just for phones, okay? Because I want to be able to take a selfie instead of like just specifying, like some animations. I want to be able to take a picture, but I only want to do that if it's a phone. I don't want to do it if it's on a desktop. So let's go back up to that configure page that I was showing you before. You'll notice that I have, so here's all the data that you were seeing on the web version of it. But if I have a preprocessor directive defined here, if Android or iOS, I want to be able to put in some UI here that takes a selfie, all right? Now, in order for this to work, Alon showed you how MAUI provides multi-targeting just out of the box in the template. With the Razor class library, you just have to add that right in here. Now, I've got this building for .NET 8, just for everything else, and specifically for Android and iOS, it will go ahead and put that code in there for us when we build. All right, cool. All right, so the last thing I just want to show you is how easy it is to actually take the photo in MAUI, where I'm using this media picker API, just capture photo async, right? That's it. So it'll work on iOS and Android in this case. It'll actually work on other devices that have any kind of camera as well. So why I'm saying, is the camera captured supported? Yes, take the picture. All right, so I have this, this patiently waiting Android phone down here, okay? It's actually running the app already, okay? So I want to see the configure page here. You'll notice that I now have this take a selfie UI. So why don't we go ahead?
On your actual
This is
Android
running on
phone.
my actual phone.
Can we even have the camera show us like the real camera? All right,
there we go.
So
this is running on my phone. I'm just mirroring the screen with what's showing right now, okay? All right, we're going to take a selfie. Ready? Good? Good enough. It's a little blurry, but that's all right. That's fine.
MAUI doesn't make your photos less blurry.
That's the phone
makes
part.
It so you can
but
take
there you
photos.
go. It captures it. Now when I go back to our countdown, you can see that I've got that selfie on the countdown. All right, cool. All right, so that's just taking advantage of the best of MAUI and the best of Blazor together. All right, so let's flip back to slides here. I've just got a screenshots of different, this app's the same app running on all the different platforms. I showed you the web and the Android device, but we've also got it here on iOS, Mac Catalyst, and Windows running as well. All right, cool. All right, so Alon, you have something probably to talk about with this slide.
Yeah, I do. So we have, in addition to using Blazor to build hybrid applications where you get to reuse your C#, you might have existing Blazor assets, .NET libraries that you want to use. We also have this experiment called the .NET MAUI Hybrid Web View, where it enables you to combine other JavaScript-based applications, perhaps based on React or Angular or any other library, maybe completely custom, and embed that into a .NET MAUI cross-platform application. Maybe you have different teams in your organization, or so you're trying to wrap some other components that you have into a .NET MAUI application. So you get to mix as much .NET and C# as you want, as well as any existing HTML and C# and JavaScript, assets that you might have. And with the hybrid web view, you get to mix all of these just like with hybrid web view. So if we can switch to my laptop here, then I can do a quick demo. All right, perfect. So here, the best place to get started is on my GitHub page, so github.com/Eilon, E-I-L-O-N, and then there's the MAUI Hybrid Web View repo on there. We have a link at the end of the talk as well, so don't worry about remembering that. Now, the best place to get started is just go through the README, and there's some steps there to get you started. And if you clone the repo, you can check out the solution. That's what I'm going to demo here is, let's run this application. And what I've got here is I took an existing React application. All I did is I went to Bing and I searched for a simple React to-do application. And this is literally the first one that I found. And what I did is I made a few small changes to it, which you can also see in that I linked from the repo, which is in various places where the to-do app is trying to delete tasks. Instead of changing an in-memory array, which is what the original sample does, I have it call into the C# hybrid web view. So this is a JavaScript call that is implemented to send a message back to C#. So here, anytime the JavaScript is calling delete task, it's going to go to the hybrid web view and say, hey, C#, you delete this task from the to-do item list. And that is what this sample does. So as I scroll around here, you can add items, say, do demo, add that. And if I go back and actually set a breakpoint in the C#, let's actually walk you through how I put this together. Here in the main page, we have, instead of a Blazor web view, there's this new hybrid web view control, where the main thing you have to tell it is where is the JavaScript-based application located. So here I have a hybrid asset root, which is located inside the resources folder. So inside resources/raw, this is an otherwise very standard .NET MAUI application, not using Blazor, it's just a regular .NET MAUI application, and here is my React app. Now, in this case, it's the output of using yarn to compile and assemble the application, get all of its resources, all the different images, and I took the output of that build and I just dropped it in here, completely unchanged aside from the calls to hybrid web view that we just looked at. And aside from that, I just run the application. In fact, let's set a breakpoint. In here, I have some of the C# functionality. So let's scroll down to the add task. And now when I run the application with the debugger, we'll see that breakpoint get hit every time I add a task. And again, note, this is running React inside a web view locally. Again, no internet access or anything like that, unless the application actually needs it. Same exact model as the Blazor web view. So now we say do C# demo. Typed into a React application, I click add, and we see here the breakpoint in my C# is hit. And so here is that task. This might be a little bit small on the screen, but trust me, it says the same thing, and we can continue running the application. And so the way that works is when the hybrid web view is configured, I tell it the JavaScript invoke target. And this is a feature that I have in the MAUI hybrid web view, where I say anytime the JavaScript wants to call into C#, call a method on this class. And that's the class we were just looking at with the breakpoint, where I have add task for adding, edit task, and so on and so forth. And the two can send messages back and forth between each other. So for example, I think what that does here is it says to the hybrid web view in C#, send a message back to JavaScript. So for example, when new data becomes available in the to-do application, this goes back and calls a method back onto the JavaScript. And I think we can go back to the slides now. And we'd love your feedback on this. This is an experimental feature that we have. You can check it out. There's a NuGet package. You don't have to compile it yourself. The instructions walk you through exactly how to do it. It takes only a few minutes. We'd love to hear your feedback. So send us feedback on that repo. It's a feature we're considering adding to some future version of .NET MAUI. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you've tried with it. If you have any issues or suggestions, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Eilon. All right, let's just wrap this up. Just as a summary, if you take away these points that we've hopefully convinced you that hybrid apps are the way to build apps, right? Just for everything. They're great for web developers, right? You really want to access the native platform capabilities. And Maui is going to really help you use those platform abstractions and multi-targeting. And really think about it. You're probably starting with a web app, to be honest, and you're going to want to reuse the UI across the web and the native apps. And that's totally possible just putting these into class libraries.
Yeah, reuse not just your code, but also your skills as well. You've taken a lot of time to learn these things. We want you to apply that same knowledge everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so here are the resources that Alon mentioned. We're going to also put these out in the repo, like where we'll have all of the decks after the conference. So don't worry if you don't remember all of this, or take a picture right now if you're really interested. Yeah, and I guess we went over a little bit, sorry, but questions?